We'll go to this side now.
My name is Chana Koulibaly. I'm the ambassador of Mali. Well, talking about trade, you know, when last year we were in the last months of the first AGOA, we ambassadors of African countries were rushing with the administration, with the Congress, so that the renewal would happen before the end of the first AGOA, mostly because we felt that if the renewal does not happen before, then all the mostly Western investors, American investors who have invested in countries like Mauritius, like Lesotho, to benefit from AGOA would withdraw their capitals, and then we will have a flat position just like we were before AGOA. What that means is that finally there is not, well, a very important economic creation through AGOA. Maybe I'm too severe, but that's the way I see it. My question is, would it not be better, more of economic development for Africa if, well, the Western world would help us for more trade between African countries? And will the world not be safer if Africa were more integrated economically than having more trade with out of Africa? And will that still not be in the interest of the United States to help us increase economic integration between African countries? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely, and I do think the U.S. in some ways is trying to move that agenda with the East Africa Trade Hub, for example, or trying to harmonize regulations, try to ease border crossings. I mean, there's a lot to be done on the infrastructure, and we all know how hard it is to fly from one African capital to another. You know, you have to zigzag. So interconnections are important, and I do think integration ultimately will spur greater U.S. investment. A lot of companies say, you know, look, I just can't deal with the multiple regulatory systems and the small markets of multiple countries. I think Steve's point, you know, that's critically important for regional integration. I think some of the formal economic communities are kind of, the formal architecture is more, the architecture is there, but not always kind of the actual interest. And so the EAC has made probably the most progress, but it's still halting, and I still think there's ambivalence. There are, though, interesting examples of the private sector leading and kind of more pragmatic regional integration. You look at the, you know, it's not yet up and running, but the Kenyan northern corridor, Lamu inward, that's going to connect ultimately perhaps Ethiopia, Sudan, Uganda, kind of a private sector priorities driving integration versus just the formal government-led create the infrastructure and then the trade will happen. So, you know, I think a lot of that, the private sector has to drive. I think and policymakers in Africa perhaps need to listen more to their private sectors in terms of what they need to be able to integrate more across borders.